Thank you for the kind introduction. My name is Barbara Yook, and I am your current district attorney. I've been prosecuting crimes here in Calaveras County since 1997. Fresh out of law school, I came up here to be a prosecutor. Frankly, I only expect to stay a couple of years, get some experience, and go back to the big city for law school in San Francisco at UC. But as luck would have it, my husband had also come here from work after getting out of the Army. And one thing led to another, and 14 years later, here I am. Started off at the bottom, doing misdemeanors, graduated eventually to doing felonies. In 2003, I became the assistant DA, and in addition to my felony caseload, took on the day-to-day management of the DA's office, including personnel matters, and also the limited civil practice that the DA's office does, such as taking money from drug dealers in civil cases, and also civil commitments of sex offenders. In 2010, with the sad and untimely passing of Jeff Tuttle, by law, I became the acting DA, and then the Board of Supervisors unanimously appointed me DA in September of 2010. So I've been your DA for about 2 years now. When I became the DA, I took on the responsibilities of the budget, policy, grand jury advisor, and one area of law that is very challenging and very important in my world, and I think in your world as well, is that's the lifer hearings. We go to prison and we keep lifers, those are murderers, from getting out of prison. We have to do a few of those every year. We are still at a point of budget crisis. I had trial by fire. My first budget year, 10% cut. Next year, 17.5% cut. And I'm not looking at you, Marita, on purpose, but dealing with the county budget is an art. All the department heads here know that. We are also at a crossroads here in California with AB 109. There's about 500 crimes that you cannot go to prison for anymore. I'm not sure if you are aware of some of the impacts of AB 109. Our jail is already overcrowded, and the state did not give us enough money to deal with this problem. As your future DA, I intend to continue to lead the DA's office, as I have done for the last 2 years, with innovation to deal with our challenges, with experience in felonies, to know how these changes in the law affect what we do, and the somber responsibility and power we have to charge crimes and to seek appropriate sentences, with informed compassion in dealing with victims who didn't do anything to ask to be involved in the backwards world of criminal justice, as it sometimes is, and with the integrity to always do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. David, if you use up to 3 minutes to tell us about yourself.
Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is David Singer. I'm also running for district attorney. My background before I became an attorney, I spent about 20 years in the private sector doing business and operations management. A lot of people don't really understand the role of the district attorney. The district attorney, although an attorney really spends most of the time doing administrative and managerial functions, you have an office to run, you have budgets to deal with, you have personnel issues to deal with, and you also set the direction of the office, the policy of the office, how you approach cases, how you approach certain crimes. What's been missing in the DA's office here for a long time is the aggressiveness to go after the people committing crimes. It is no big secret that we have a revolving door for the criminals in this county. It's kind of like fishing, catch and release. And it can't keep happening that way. We need to be more aggressive. And for the laws to have any kind of deterrent value, there have to be consequences. I practice law in Calaveras and in Amador counties, and occasionally in Tuolumne. Most of my cases, 80% of them are in Amador County. And I can tell you, when I talk to deputies up in Amador, they come to me and with, hey, you're running for DA. Does that mean they're going to start prosecuting people there? And that's the reputation this county has outside of our county. We need to do something to change that. And there needs to be more consistency so that when somebody commits a crime, it doesn't matter who charges it, who prosecutes it, it's going to be the same. I mean, you can get a different result just by the different attorney you talk to. My approach, and this comes from my management background, is you manage from the bottom up. You get the people that do the job on a daily basis. You enlist the help of the deputy DAs, and you put together and create the criteria for evaluating new cases, how to charge them, how we're going to prosecute them, so that you get consistent results. save money because these people are going back out and committing more crimes. And when you save money, they're not going to give us any more money. So the reality is we have to find ways to save it. So that's the approach that I want to take this office in a different direction and put some teeth in it, and let's keep these people off the streets. And we actually have some of the deputy DAs here tonight. Jeff Stone is in the DA's office, and David Final, they're here tonight. They were working feverishly writing questions tonight, so see if they can stop me. That's okay. I'm happy to field their questions. But they're good people. I don't want you to think I'm introducing them. They are very good people. I know them, and I'm really looking forward to the challenges of this office and AB 109.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. We have some questions here. And we'll start with Barbara Yook. As a district attorney, what do you see as your responsibility to the people you serve?
First and foremost, my responsibility is to keep the public safe. I've been doing that since 1997 when I came up here. Again, starting from the bottom up, prosecuting the lower level crimes and working my way up to felonies. We also have fiduciary duty to use our resources wisely, mete out justice in a fair, informed way. I have a duty to know the laws, know how to apply the laws, know how to work within our local court culture. And I appreciate my opponent's comments about experience working elsewhere, but Amador is not Calaveras. Amador might be close to Calaveras, and there is no wall between us, but Calaveras is Calaveras, and you have to work within the structure, know your judges, know your local court culture, know your defense attorneys, and know what the people expect. What's going to fly in San Francisco is not necessarily going to fly here with our local juries. So my duty as district attorney is to enforce the laws, enforce them fairly, use my integrity to make sure that everybody gets a fair shake. We also have a duty to protect everyone's constitutional rights. The Constitution is here for all of us, and that includes defendants. So when we are looking at cases and reviewing cases, we're looking, hey, the cops were right. If they didn't, we don't go for it. If they did, and it's a crime that we can prove, and it's the right thing to do, that's what we do, and that's what helps keep our streets safe. Thank you.
David, as district attorney, what do you see as your responsibility to the people you serve?
The primary responsibility to the people that you serve is to keep them safe. We've been given this new edict, AB 109, that, contrary to what you might think, was not in response to the Supreme Court telling the state of California you need to reduce the prison population because the conditions are what would be considered almost cruel and unusual. It was drafted by the Committee on Budget. What's that tell you? It's about money. The state wanted to save money. In fact, in Penal Code Section 17.5, newly enacted, it states the provisions of this act are not intended to alleviate prison overcrowding. So they've given us this thing that we have to deal with. And what it's forcing us to do and what they want us to do is perhaps not prosecute as much as we did, or maybe reduce some of the felonies to misdemeanors or misdemeanors to infractions so we can keep people out of custody. I can tell you right now that I am not going to compromise the safety of the citizens of Calaveras County just to appease the state of California for their own inept mismanagement of public funds. I'm going to prosecute the way it should be prosecuted. The other duty we have is also to the defendants. We have this presumption that you're innocent until proven guilty, and we must adhere to the constitutional safeguards to make sure that their rights don't get violated. As much as you want the conviction, most importantly, you need to get it right. When you're talking about potentially taking away somebody's liberty and locking them up in a jail or a prison, you have to get it right. So there's different people that you have to look out for here.
Thank you, David. And so we're not always going in the same direction. I'm going to ask you this next question right away. Is jury trial experience important in being a district attorney? And if so, how many jury trials have you performed?
Very few, contrary to what you might think, do more trials, you probably get a little bit better at the actual litigation part. My approach has been that I litigate my case, since I'm doing defense work at the moment, I litigate my case with the deputy DA that I'm dealing with. We go through the strengths of our cases, the weaknesses of our cases, and if I can point out the holes in their cases and that it may not have merit, I get my case dismissed. When you're on the defense side, dismissal is a win for you. It would be like a conviction for the DA. Is it important? Sure it is. You have to be able to connect with juries, but you also have to connect with the other attorneys you deal with the judges. But I try my cases outside of the courtroom for the most part. I haven't had too many cases go to trial in the last 5 years. I think like maybe 5 or 6, but that's because they don't go. But I've probably got 3 times that many that got dismissed just because of the negotiation aspect of it. Because that's really what it's about. I want a fair and just result. That's the ultimate goal. Most of the people that I represent probably did something wrong. And I'll go to them and say, there's going to be consequences. I just make sure that both sides play by the rules. If their constitutional rights don't get violated, we go with the evidence and the witnesses that we have and come out with a just result.
Thank you. Barbara, is jury trial experience important in being a DA, and if so, how many jury trials have you performed?
Thank you. Well, I have to say I do agree with my opponent that most cases do resolve by plea, and they resolve by plea because experienced prosecutors know what a case is worth in the county they're working in. And if a defendant is wanting to plead guilty, take their loss, be punished, or go to rehabilitation or something, that is a good thing. That is the right thing to do. Victims can move on. That being said, trial experience is incredibly important for the district attorney. The district attorney is the leader of the office, sets the tone, works with their staff on each and every single jury trial, pretty much. I have done no less than 15 trials in my 14 and a half years here. The majority of those are felony trials. I started off in misdemeanors, DUIs, and domestic violence, and then moved on to garden variety felonies such as stolen property, and then on to serious and violent felonies, meaning strikes, and also sex cases. I work with each of my deputies on their serious cases. We talk about issues, and if I didn't have that experience, I would not be able to assist them and help move the trials along. Once this campaign is over, I do expect to be getting back into court. Our county is too small, and yes, Marina, I'm plugging again for an assistant DA at some point. I've been doing 2 jobs for the last 2 years, and it's been difficult for me to get back in court. Someday that will change, and as a working DA, you have to have that trial experience. Thank you.
Looks like we're getting a lot more questions, so I'm going to shorten some of these to 1-minute questions. And back to you, Barbara, what type of violent or serious crimes have you dealt with?
Well, I'm assuming they're talking about the technical definition of serious and violent crimes. That's 667.5 in the Penal Code, 1192.7. This is a minute long, so I'm going to talk a little faster. It's a good thing I do. I have done 245s with guns. I'm kind of drawing a blank here. I'm sorry. The serious and violent. But if the question wasn't specifically about the strikes, I've also done the sex cases, possession of, drug trafficking, and again, it's not just the prosecutions themselves, it's also the life preparings, and I've done numerous life preparings where I go to prison and advocate for the lifer not to be released on parole. Life does not mean life, life means until they let you out on parole, and what that entails is doing a mini trial at the prison. So certainly those are all serious and violent crimes.
Same question, David. What type of violent or serious crimes have you dealt with?
Well, as part of my job, I have under contract up in Amador County to provide all the public defender services. So I take cases when the public defender would have a conflict, say, when there's multiple defendants. The thing about that is you don't know what you're going to get. You kind of have to take what you get. And as a result, I get a lot of cases that involve serious and violent felonies. I've got one right now where the gentleman is charged with 3 felony counts, and all of them are strikes. He's in some trouble. But I've been on that contract for about 4.5 years years, I've handled just about everything that you can imagine that they would throw at you, including assault with a deadly weapon. In fact, this case that I have right now, allegedly there was a baseball bat used in this attack. So I couldn't quantify, I couldn't tell you how many, but there's been a lot of them, because a lot of the cases that I have there are multiple felonies, and oftentimes they involve violence and strikes.
Okay, back to you, David. Again, another 1 minute question. Do you support the death penalty?
Yes.
That gives us another question.
The death penalty is the law of California. I want to let you know that we are likely facing a ballot measure about it. And unfortunately, part of the measure is to repeal it and to also make it retroactive. So I'm deeply concerned about that. That would undo years of jury verdicts, the hard work that juries do, the investment that the victims have in it. As it stands right now, it is obviously very difficult for victims to ever see the end and see the light at the end of the tunnel, but at least it's there. This initiative that's coming up is something that we need to be watching out for. It is going to undo a lot of things, and what it has to do with primarily is the protocol, I think it's protocol 770 or something like that, don't quote me on that number, about the three drugs that they have to use. The first drug is no longer being made in the USA and it's been imported from Great Britain, but of course the European Union is thinking, okay, we don't want to send that drug because what they're going to do with it. So that's kind of where it started. So be on the lookout for some potential changes in November.
The bullet's only about 38 cents.
Hey, Barbara, again, back to you. AB 109, what will happen?
Okay. I talk fast, but I can't answer this question in 1 minute. Last time I tried to talk about it, I was training law enforcement on the changes to AB 109, and it took me about 2 hours, and once again, I do talk fast. I don't really know what's going to happen, but it's going to change everything that we know. It's a new way of doing business, and I know we're probably sick of hearing that phrase, but there's about 500 crimes that you cannot go to prison any longer for. You can only go if you have a serious or violent crime, and remember, it is not what you or I might think is serious or violent, it's what the legislature thinks is serious or violent. You can only go to prison if you're a 290 registrant, or if your crime was specifically designated by the legislature as one that is serious enough to go to prison. For instance, felon with a firearm, felon with domestic violence, felon with child abuse. So think about what that means. Those were not serious or violent crimes, but fortunately the legislature added them to the mix. Animal torture, not a serious or violent crime by your legislature. So you could torture a horse, for instance, not go to prison, but if you sell the horse meat afterwards, you can. So because of what the legislature did. So there are some serious changes coming, and maybe you can invite me back and I'll give you a 2-hour speech on it.
David, would you speak on AB 109 for a minute?
Yes, as I alluded to earlier, this was designed strictly for money. It passed the problem onto the counties and said, okay, now you're going to have to deal with this. County jails were not designed for long-term confinement of criminals. They're not. Our jails are already full. When the new one's built, I think they're increasing about 15 beds that they're actually going to be able to staff. It's not going to take very long before those are filled also. What really needs to happen, and it's going to depend on all of you and people throughout the state of California, I don't see how this can possibly last that long. I do not. It's going to require resources on our law enforcement, additional resources to be used from the attorney's office on probation. They gave the county some money, I think it was like $475,000 this year. But if you know how the state operates, next year they're going to say, oh, we don't have that much money, so it's going to be $300,000. And the year after that, $150,000. And about 4 or 5 years from now, it's going to be no money, just another unfunded mandate that we're stuck with. So that's what's happening here. I don't see how it can work. So it can be up to you to then get on the legislatures and say the state needs to step up and take its responsibility and take care of the people in your prison.
Thank you, David. And now we're going to go to closing comments. You'll each have 2 minutes. Let's see, I started with Barbara, so I will start with David for closing comments.
Ms. Yook mentioned something a little bit ago about knowing what your cases were, and that's very important. trial, and he was acquitted of second-degree murder. They did come back and find him guilty of involuntary manslaughter. But that was offered at the beginning. It saved it a lot of money. So it's important to know the value of your case. The other thing I want to leave you with is some statistics. This is where it gets kind of boring, so I'll try to get through this. Calaveras County's had some of the lowest conviction rates in the state for a long time. And I'm only going to go back to 2004 when my opponent became the assistant DA and started managing the day-to-day operations of the office. For Calaveras County, starting in 2004 through 2009, because that's when the DOJ, they don't have the statistics yet for 2010 to 2011. 2004 on up, 75.8%, 79%, 77%, 76%, 71%, 74%. Amador County for the same period, 80%, 89%, 82.5%, 86%, 86%, 87.7%. Tuolumne County, 85%, 86%, 87, 85, 83, 89, and Riverside, 92, 92.3, 93.8, 93.2, 99.2, and 99.4. Something needs to change here.
Thank you, Mr. Singer. Dr. Yook, 2 minutes for closing comments.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody for being here and giving me the opportunity to speak. I'd like to address the statistics really quickly. You can make numbers, say anything you want to say. I don't know where those came from or what the basis for them are. I will say that we are not afraid to try hard cases, and that could be a reflection, but I'm not going to disparage any other county. I do want to address the comments about Mr. Livesey case. Certainly, the jury came back with an involuntary manslaughter, and I would say that the people have spoken, and that was a just result. We might have taken that offer if it didn't come with the condition of letting him out. And I'm sorry, I don't know why the defense, who can hire a private attorney, has the county paying for experts. That's a whole separate discussion. But I'm not going to look a murder victim's mother in the eye and say, I'm sorry, he's willing to plead, and that's a good thing. But here's the condition: we're going to let him out because we're afraid of what the defense is going to do. We're not going to back down. It was a fine result, and I support the jury's verdict. We did feel that a second-degree murder could be made. The jury disagreed. The people have spoken. But just remember, there was a condition on that plate. So before you second-guess us, have all the facts. The condition was, let him out. Last time he'd been let out, he killed somebody. He killed Mr. Brown in his own home. And he had 2 other people he was going to go get. So I make no apologies for that. I'm sorry it costs a lot of money because of defense hijinks. I don't get to decide what a defense attorney gets to spend on their experts. If I did, it would have been a different story. I think they waste a lot of money. But clearly that would be inappropriate for me to make those decisions. There's a line there. They can put on what case they want to put on. Don't ask me why the county pays for a defense expert when the person can clearly afford their own private attorney. So be it, that's how it is. As your future DA, I will continue to lead my office with innovation to face challenges, budget challenges and other challenges, changes with the law. I have the experience and the integrity to do it right. Thank you.
Thanks to both of you, David Singer and Barbara Yook.